Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to episode 66 of the Gaming Rules podcast. In this episode I'm joined by Tom Heath from Slicker Drips and Matt Evans from Creaking Shelves, and we're going to be going back to October 2018. We're going to take a look at the games that we previewed, the ones that we were most excited about that was coming out at Essen Spiel 2018. And we're going to go back and we're talking about them again. We're going to cover the games that we've played and what we thought about them now, having played them, and see if it matches up at all with what we thought about they might be back in October. So regular listeners will probably realise that it's been 3 months since the last podcast, and in fact podcast 65, the previous one, was the one where I got together with Matt and Tom and talked about it. For those of you who follow me on social media or follow some of my other content, you'll know that my personal life, there's been a few problems recently, and that is the reason for the delay in the podcast. But I've been wanting to do this for a while, get back on the wagon, get Tom and Matt back on board, and let's see how we get on. I'm hoping to make more and more podcasts moving forward into 2019. And just as a reminder, this podcast and a lot of my other content is only made possible thanks to my Patreon campaign. So if you enjoy the show and you like this podcast or any of the other of my content, then please consider supporting me over at patreon.com/gaming rules. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. So welcome back to the show, Tom.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hello.
Right, okay, so I've got you both back on to talk about the games that we covered last year in October.
Oh, those old things.
Yeah, those old things. And I've put them all in a document, and we're going to do them in alphabetical order. So these are not going to be in any other order other than alphabetical. And just as a reminder, what we did back in October, we went through our own personal top fives. We also took the top 5 from votes on the Board Game Trading in Chat UK Facebook group. And we also took the top 5, I think, from the Tabletop Together tool for what people were most excited about.
Do we remember which games were from which list?
No.
Cool.
I don't remember what I said about these games as well, so sorry if I say the exact same thing.
Neither do I, but this will be fine. I'll tell you what, Matt, I'm going to pull up the previous podcast document, which I've probably overwritten, to find out what was on our lists. Never mind. Okay, right. So, I mean, I can remember a couple of them.
I could remember what was on my list, but not what positions they were in.
Right, okay. So, we should have all gone back and listened to the previous one, but that would have meant listening to ourselves.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We've got 17 games to go through. So, there were a lot of crossovers between the lists, but there was a lot of unique ones as well. And some of these we've probably not played ourselves, but let's crack on and talk about them anyway.
I can guarantee I have not played very many of them.
Right. Okay, so first on the list, and again, this is alphabetical order, this is Architects of the West Kingdom, which I don't think was on any of our individual lists, but it was on one of the other 2 lists. I think it was the Board Game Trading in Chat list.
I haven't played
Silence. No.
Silence.
I got shown it. I got shown it by Renegade in Essen.
Right.
And yeah, I thought the same thing. I probably said it before that it's got some kind of mechanism where you can take each other's workers. It's a worker placement game, but you can kind of hold other people's workers hostage, which sounds like a cool thing, but definitely not something for me.
Not for you. Yeah.
So I wasn't interested in playing it based on that.
Okay.
I liked to play it at some point, but yeah, I just picked up Raiders of the North Sea, which is one of their previous ones.
Yes.
And I'm liking that, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to play Architects yet. So.
And then since then, I think there's been another one announced since Essen, Paladins.
Yes.
Which is a follow-on to this one, I think.
Yeah, and a whole new trilogy.
Okay.
God, that publisher seems to like trilogies.
So where's this one? Where's Architects? Is that part of the previous trilogy?
Architects is the first of the West Kingdom trilogy.
Right.
And you had the North Sea trilogy before that. I have no idea why he does this.
Well, it's quite cool in a way, and it also, from a marketing point of view, selling point, people will buy one and then they'll buy the other ones just to have it complete, I guess.
I know. With the North Sea one, he released an expansion which allowed you to play them all kind of sequentially in a campaign-y type thing. Right. So maybe he'll do the same again for West Kingdom.
Okay. Yeah. So I've not played this. I have seen it being played, and I have made a point of having a quick look at what some other people have been saying about it, and it seems generally positive from what I've been seeing.
It's been clinging to the top of the BGG hotness for a while.
Okay.
Or it had been, I think. So I think there are a lot of very happy people who back the Kickstarter.
Right. Okay, so that's Architects of the West Kingdom. We've not played it. It wasn't on our personal list that we were looking forward to, but apparently it's quite good. And at least me and Matt do want to try it, but not for Tom because it has a bit of Take That in there.
Boo.
Right. Next one. Azul Stained Glass of Sintra, or Azul 2, as it's being called. So who's managed to play this one?
Yes.
I've played this.
Right, you two have played it then. I've seen it being played, and I've heard two completely different opinions about it. So, one of you two talk about it. Matt, go ahead.
Well, I quite like it. I mean, it's obviously got the same kind of core how do you take tiles mechanic as Azul, and then it's attached to a different puzzle on your player area. And I think I kind of prefer the new Azul puzzle to the old Azul puzzle, although there's not a great deal in it. I found, Azul's perfectly nice, and Azul 2 is also perfectly nice. I struggle to get very excited about this game.
Okay.
Or either of these games, I have to admit. I don't like the tiles as much.
So
they're like cough sweets now, aren't they?
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
moved from Starburst to cough sweets. They've got a little dip in them.
That's it. They do look like, and I won't say the brand name just in case we get, called out for.
We might get a big box of them though.
We might. That's true. So Tom.
Okay, I'll preface this by saying that I didn't play the first Azul because I knew that we would hate it.
Right.
Because, especially at lower player counts, very, 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 very mean.
Okay.
You can stop other people achieving what they want to. And I think in this version, based on what I know about the first one, having not played it, it's easier to get in people's ways and see exactly what they're going for because the colours are defined on their boards now. Mm-hmm. There's like these strips that are randomised out and you can see exactly what people have, not kind of work it out based on what they're loading up their alleys with. And so that was kind of part of it that wasn't fun. Another part was this situation that kept happening where all these tiles of one colour would build up and we could kind of start calculating how many turns it would be until somebody had to take this ridiculous pile of tiles.
Right.
And it happened to me once, and it happened to, I was playing with John Cox, John Gets Games. It happened to him, I think, 3 times.
Okay.
Where he just got these huge piles of tiles that are penalty points. And I believe penalty points reset in the first Azul, round by round.
Yes.
They're cumulative over the entire game in this version. And so it happened that the person who won the game had something like -2 from penalties, and John had something like -30-something.
Right, okay.
And yeah, it's...
Sounds harsh.
It was so
sounds like he's not very good at Azul.
And so crazy. But yeah, I don't think it was a terrible thing for any of them. But yeah,
right.
I thought I would hate it, and I hated it.
Right. And there we go. And you've still not played the original one?
No, and I don't think I ever will. No. I only played it because we're in Essen, and everyone wants to play Azul. I'll try Azul.
Right. So you thought you weren't going to like it, and you didn't like it.
I was 100% right, which, in a way, is the best place to be.
It is. and Matt, you liked it, but nothing to get excited about.
I mean, if you really love Azul, then chances are you will also really like this. Okay. Although I don't know whether you'd need this if you already, have Azul and really love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different, and it's different in a nice way. I quite like the whole moving your glazier person back and forth across the line and stuff like that.
So yeah, it's sufficiently different, you think?
Yes. Right. I mean, it's another abstract puzzle.
Okay. I mean, the things I've heard are it's nowhere near as good as the original. It's just completely random, right through to, this completely replaces the original. It's much better. So if you like Azul,
legit.
Try Azul 2. Basically, and see what you think. Now, while Tom was talking, I have managed to find the old list from
Hooray.
back in October. So yeah, so Azul was the Tabletop Togethers tool number 4. There we go. So next, moving on, we have Blackout Hong Kong. And we can now tell you where that was on our lists. So Blackout Hong Kong was 4th on the Board Game Trading in Chat UK Facebook group. It was 2nd on Matt's list. And it was 1st on my list. Although I remember my list was just 5 games. I didn't really order them, honestly. So who's managed to play Blackout Hong Kong?
Yes.
Yes.
How many times have you played it?
Once.
Twice? Well, do you count playthroughs of having played it? Because
Yeah,
maybe 3
yeah.
times. 3
Yeah.
times then.
Right. And I've played it 4 or 5. Can't remember. So at last we've got one that we've all played.
Ooh.
What do we think? Shall I go first? Because I didn't talk about the last one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've done a review of it, so go and watch my review. There we go.
Thanks, Paul.
There we
Moving
go.
on.
So, I mean, I like his games, and I liked a lot of the mechanics in the game. The graphic design, as many people have said, there's me justifying my opinion of it by saying many people felt it. The graphic design seriously lets down the game, and I know there's a part of you that can put that graphic design to one side and just get on with the game. But when the graphic design is actually causing gameplay problems, and then other people are not enjoying the experience enough because, oh, he's made a mistake because he got the red and the purple mixed up because it's just too dark, that reduces the overall enjoyment out of the game. And I think every single game I've played of it, at least one person, even when I pointed it out at the start and said, look, be very, very careful with these colours, it did hinder their gameplay. Mechanically, I think the game's really good. It's probably my least favourite. If we put together Great Western Trail, Mombasa and Blackout, it's probably my least favourite of those 3, but I highly rate the other 2 games. So I still think it's a good game. I like the flow of it. I just think it was, severely let down by graphic design issues.
I struggled with the flow a bit.
Okay.
I mean, partly there was a lot of first-time players at the table, and it's got a ridiculous turn structure with about 8 different phases to go through. But you did make the point while I was playing it, because I was playing it at your house, that you can do a lot of that simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it'll improve with a bit more experience on that front. I really enjoyed the rest of it.
Right.
I'm even a defender of the theme.
Theme?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's a theme. No, I mean it's fair. There is a theme. I'm being unfair to Mr. Fister here. There is a theme there, and if you look in a bit more detail at the cards, then you can go, oh yeah, I'm spending food in order to get this. Yeah, I can see that there's a theme there. And the whole getting somebody out of hospital, well, that's good and it boosts the morale because everybody's happy, so you get victory points. But none of that thing was explained anywhere in the rulebook.
No.
So it is there if you want to see it. But yeah, for me, it was just like, oh, what do I need to do that ability? Well, I need to spend 4 cubes of the same, okay, for no reason, and I need to have the following cards in a particular column on the thing. That's purely mechanical.
Teams. No, it's not. You're organising your teams.
Oh, it's right.
Perfect. They're all people. They're people, Paul.
Right. Red cubes, blue cubes.
They're not. They're resources. But yeah.
Tom, presumably you've played it 2-player.
Yes, and only 2-player.
Right.
Yeah. We kind of not one way or the other about it, really.
Okay.
Nothing stood out as massively bad, but nothing apart from me needing to make a video for it made us want to go back to it.
Right, okay.
I'd agree with the graphic design stuff that, yeah, it caused confusion. I was the orange player, and the battery space is orange.
It's orange.
Constantly missing my cube on there. And like the symbols on the dice are different to the symbols on the board.
Oh,
I
they're
don't
horrible.
understand.
Yeah, and white on yellow. I mean, it's a catalogue of errors.
And overall, I felt a bit silly saying this in my first impressions of it, but because it's a Blackout, I don't know what they could really have done.
No.
But it was just so dreary and horrible to look at.
Yeah.
Like the art on the cards, the little window of actual art, lovely.
Okay.
But the whole rest of it, and yeah, I know that like Matt likes the theme, and Rado's video went up last week, I think, completely in love with the theme.
Right.
But it completely passed me by. We were just saying colours and things like that. Yeah, we weren't in the theme at all. Yeah. And but even Rado said that it required all work on the player's part. Not one bit is described in the rulebook.
Yes.
It doesn't make any effort to saying, oh, this is why you're doing this thing, when they could and probably should have done that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, somebody asked me the other day, what is it that I liked about the game? Because in my review, I touched briefly on the bits that I liked, but I didn't actually explain the sort of feelings that it evoked in me. And it's the puzzle. It's that, right, well, I need to get that. In order to get that, I'm going to have to put these cards here, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take these cards back. And it's that mental exercise of where am I going to put these cards, where am I going to put these cubes, and everything else. And that's the bit I liked about it.
Yeah, and having things like the transport tokens where you roll dice to get resources, so maybe you're going to get messed up by not rolling the resource you want, but you can always spend these tokens to adjust the dice.
Yep.
And you can have as many tokens as you want, but they cost points.
Yes.
So then it's all on you of how much is this plan worth to you?
Yeah.
Because you can do whatever you want, but is it going to cost you more points than it earns you, basically?
Yeah, I mean, that's really nice,
cool part.
You can change the results of the dice to get the resources you want. It does mean there is a little bit of a luck factor in the game. So, for example, if I needed 3 food this turn, and the dice are rolled and there's 3 food, brilliant. But if no food is rolled, I'm going to have to spend victory points to get that food. That's basically a random factor of whether I have to spend points or not.
No, it's not, because you've chosen to take a card that demands 3 food when you didn't have any food prepared.
That's true.
Really.
But what I'm saying is those points are minimal compared to the points you're going to get for playing well. Those few points that you have to spend if the dice don't come out on that particular round exactly the way you wanted them, it's fine. So, there we go. So, would we play it again?
Definitely. I really want to play it some more.
I definitely would.
No.
Right. Okay. So
such a downer, Tom.
I know. Well, yeah, I'd say there's nothing that's like generally like that I would. Well, I did just kind of rant about things.
Yeah.
But there's nothing massively that would that put me off gameplay wise. But yeah, at the same time, nothing that really excited me either.
Yeah, and because the map size is exactly the same, no matter how many players, you probably had very little.
Oh yeah, that's
very little interaction.
Yeah, you can compete over who can surround these areas.
Yeah.
If you surround the area, you'll get the most points, but also everyone else that's touching the points will get some reward for it as well.
Yep.
In a 2-player game, just I'll go here, you go there, and we'll never ever interact. But there's a campaign that again, Rado loves the campaign. Watch his video for happiness and niceness about it.
What I said about it.
Did you love the campaign?
No.
Well, you're the opposite then. But yeah, I'd say the campaign is a set of variants.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's not a campaign mode. It's right.
Yeah.
In this game, we're going to play with a slight variant rule, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think a lot of these story modes that are coming in now are just basically what would have been the variant section of the rulebook.
Yeah. And there's no ongoing story.
Yeah.
It's just there's one line of flavour text at the start of the scenario that says it's 3 a.m. We're short on food and Dave's gone missing. Right, here's how you play the game. Right, and then story 2 is right. It's now 5 o'clock in the morning. We found Dave, but he's lost his shoes. Now play the game with this variant rule. And
okay, that would be a campaign. I would play that. But yeah, for 2 players, Alexander said maybe you want to just go to the campaign for 2 players because you play with a shared objective card.
Yeah.
So the path, the dots that you're trying to connect on the map are the exact same ones. So that will drive competition much more in a game with fewer players.
Yeah. Right. So that was Blackout Hong Kong. Moving on to another one that wasn't on any of our lists, which is Caverna Forgotten Folk, which appeared on the let's have a look. Where was it? It was 5th on the Board Game Trading and Chat UK Facebook group poll. But yeah, it wasn't on any of ours. So has anybody played it?
No.
Okay. Anybody want to play it?
I mean,
No,
I'd be happy to give it a go, but I am not going to go seeking it out.
Okay.
I mean, I've not played Caverna and nearly enough to warrant playing an expansion. So
I haven't got Caverna. If I had Caverna,
You would.
and if I got sent Caverna and a Forgotten Folk, Lookout Games, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
damn it, Tom's so much better at this game than I am.
Then maybe. But yeah. Yeah.
Are Lookout Games
We're
still in
quickly
existence?
defenders.
I thought Lookout Games had gone now. But anyway, I really like Caverna. It's one of my favourite games. I've not played it in a long time, but I really like it. So this is something that I would be keen to play, but you know, not enough time, too many games. But a friend of mine has played it. So I can tell you what they thought about it. And I think 7 of them played it.
Good grief.
And some of them liked it and some of them didn't. So there we go.
I think the thing I'm most outraged about is that in this entire list, we don't have Great Western Trail Rails to the North, which is the best expansion I've played in ages.
Right. Well, we can talk about that at the end. Things that should have been on our list. That's a good thing, actually. So Caverna Forgotten Folk, basically, it takes Caverna, but each player has an individual race, which has modified rules of how you play the game and modified ways of how you get victory points. One of the negatives that some of my friends who played it said is that basically you're the elves, so you're going to get bonus points for building outside. Okay, so I'll build outside then. It kind of, but it's like any game with those objectives. It's kind of, if you do this, you'll get this bonus. Oh right, well I'll do that then. And there was questions about the game balance, but they'd only played it once, so forget that. I think it's really cool that this was actually a fan expansion that has been picked up and developed and tweaked and changed, and then actually got released as an official thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So anyway, that's Caverna Forgotten Folk. Ceylon, which was on Matt's list. I remember. Where was it on Matt's list?
5?
Scroll. I'm sure it was on Matt's list. It was 5th. It was in 5th place on your list.
That was a good guess.
Yeah.
I have a copy of it.
Okay.
I haven't opened the copy yet.
But it was your 5th most anticipated game coming out at Essen.
Well, I only just got it.
Okay.
It only just released in the UK. I didn't get to go to Essen.
Oh, you didn't, did you?
So it's been a bit of a fight to get any of these played.
Right.
So I will be playing it soon.
Okay. And
I'll leave a comment in the video on how it was.
I've not played it. And Tom?
No, I ran out of space and money.
Right.
But it looks nice.
Okay. So none of us have played it, and none of us really know anything about it. We probably know less about it now than we did back in October.
It's out in the UK.
It's out in the UK, and it's got tea.
Yes. So much tea.
Right. Okay. So Ceylon, there will be a note in the show notes of this video in a few weeks' time from Matt telling us what he thought about it, or a link
So
to
be
your
sure to
review
come
anyway.
back and listen to it again.
Yeah. Right. Next on the list is Coimbra. Now, Coimbra was in my 4th place, and that's it. It wasn't on anybody else's top 5s. Why was that?
I think I'd
might
already
have
done...
already had it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd
That
already
was
done
it.
my playthrough and stuff.
Because it was kind of already out, but not really out. They did like
Yeah.
three soft launches for the games or something like that.
Yeah, it'd come out maybe 3 weeks before we did the podcast, I think. In England, anyway. I'd
and
already done the stuff.
We're recording this on the 23rd of January, and sometime between now and the end of the month, I will be doing a review of Coimbra. And the reason why it was 4th on my list is just the fact that so many people had told me that I'm going to like this game, and it had little dice that you put in little plastic castles. But, just looking at it visually, and I don't mean the art, I just mean the things that you see when you look at a game jumped out as like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to like that. I have played it twice, and I do enjoy it. I don't feel completely comfortable in doing a review of it, which I'm going to have to do. I would like to play it once more, but yes, I very much enjoyed it. So yeah, Tom, remind me, did you like it?
Yeah, we liked it.
Okay.
We weren't as crazy as... it seemed to be a real hit for some people.
Yes.
Looking at the board game group and stuff. But we really liked it.
Okay.
But we weren't evangelical about it.
And how did you feel about the 2-player tweaks with the dummy player dice?
That was a nice little touch.
Yeah.
There's like your dice will be resolved in a certain order. On like first choice of who gets the card will be, say, the biggest to the smallest numbers for the dice played on that row. And for 2 players, there's some cardboard chits that already have some numbers on, so you don't just default get the cards by just playing like, oh, I'll play a 6 and okay, then I can just play a 1 and get second choice. You have to actually play a decent number to be able to get a chance. That's a nice little thing.
Matt, have you managed to play Coimbra?
Yes, I've reviewed it.
Oh, right, okay.
And I like it, but like I enjoy playing it, but there's this kind of nagging feeling in my head that really the decisions you're making with the dice drafting aren't actually that important.
Okay.
Like, it's almost as though everything's kind of good, and there's not that much combo potential, and the rewards you're getting from the cards are just kind of little bonuses.
Okay.
I go into more detail in my review,
Right.
which I would need to read back to be 100% sure on my feelings again. But yeah, I just had this sense that it wasn't all quite there. It wasn't as good as it should have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I need to play it again to think about that.
Totally. Yeah. See.
But by the end of this month, all 3 of us will have done a review of the game.
Yes.
So there we go.
I can't remember what I said in my video, as always. I can't remember what I said
Out of
few
sight,
days
out
ago.
of mind.
But yeah, so go and watch my video to see what I think about
Yeah, go and
Coimbra,
watch-
because I can't quite remember what I think.
And you did a playthrough of it as well.
Yes,
So,
but that's
yeah.
the best thing to do. Ignore what I think.
Yeah. Do you watch
It's
the
an
playthrough?
amazing playthrough of it.
And if you don't like watching videos, but you like reading, then check out
Reading,
Matt's
yeah.
review. And then
Or
yeah,
print
mine
out the
should be coming-
subtitles to my video and just imagine the playthrough.
Get off my turf.
Do people do that?
Just print out the subtitles to the playthrough
Yeah.
and just get a good idea for the strategy.
So anyway, that's Coimbra. We all pretty much liked it, but Matt's got some reservations.
Yeah.
There we
that
go.
Sounds fair.
Right, so that's Coimbra. Next, Dice Hospital. This was 5th place on Tom's list, and I think that's it.
What?
Yeah. It didn't appear on anybody else's list, which is interesting because I remember Cesar from Blackout Games posting something like months and months and months ago that said Dice Hospital was number 1 on the list of most anticipated games at Essen on some kind of list. Maybe
Yeah.
a list from independent publishers or something like that.
The Alley Cat Games most anticipated games.
Maybe about hospitals with dice in.
More specifically.
Now, Alicat Games are one of my clients. I did the rulebook and the how to play video for Dice Hospital, so I'm not going to be giving my opinion on the game, but I'll hand over to you two.
I've played it. Yes. It's good. I enjoy it. It's a nice puzzle. I've only played it once. So more depth than that is lacking, sadly. I feel like I can see that there'll be a really good, like the puzzle will change depending on what rooms you end up taking at the start of the game. Because I ended up focusing very much on green dice. I had a couple of virologists helping me cure green dice and things like that. But Tom, have you played it more than me?
A bit. Well, I played the prototype a few times when I did the Kickstarter video for it, and then we've only played the final version once. And yeah, I love it. I feel like everything that I did last year, I kept banging on about that game from like UK Games Expo lists,
You did.
anticipated games of the year, always going on about it.
Yeah.
And then I was gutted that it was like 11 or 12 or something in my top 10 of the year.
Right.
Just missed out. I love it. So yeah, I should have just made it a top 12. But then you just keep going forever.
Yeah.
And just keep mentioning every single game. But yeah, I love it. It's a lovely dicey puzzle. It looks beautiful. It's got plastic ambulances. If you get the deluxe version, if you're jammy.
Yep.
And yeah, that's all you really need. Well, you need someone to paint them for you. Does anybody
Yeah.
like painting ambulances?
Well, Jason Froud from Painting Nights did a cracking job. So you've just reminded me, actually. I had a copy to film the video with, and then Cesar needed it back to send it on to somebody else, and I don't actually have a copy of the game anymore. So I need to have a word with them about that because, yeah, no, I'm not going to give my opinion on the game, but I did take it to my local games group and it got played twice, and people generally liked it. What was nice about the game is that it's a kind of gateway plus game. It's not a game that I would put in front of people who are brand new to gaming, but people who have had a bit of experience with gaming were fine with it. So yeah, that's Dice Hospital. Next on the list is Forum Trajanum, which was 5th place on my list, and that's it. Yeah. So it wasn't on your top 5s at all.
No.
I think it was in my top 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Or one of them was.
Who's played Forum Trajanum? So this is Stefan Feld's, one of 2 games from Stefan Feld that came out. Carpe Diem was the other one, and Forum Trajanum was the one we're talking about now.
I have not played this.
Okay.
So I will sit here in silence.
You videoed it?
Yeah. It's a beautiful Feld game. It's like, with the 2 games this year, it's like it's going back to the games that we really loved. That is pretty much everyone's opinion, that it sounds like I'm parroting. But yeah.
Is that what everybody else is saying about it?
He makes slightly... He's gone off in his own direction in the last couple of years, and like Oracle of Delphi, I quite liked. What was the other one? Merlin. Really didn't like.
Yeah.
But this feels like more of the old ones, more of the... Not mechanically, like exactly, but it's got a nice cozy feeling, like I'm playing something like Trajan or Macau.
Right.
Or Amerigo. It's got that lovely, warm, gooey centre that Stefan Feld games are really known for.
I think Tom needs to have a lie down.
You know that Feldy centre?
Maybe.
I know what you're saying, and I've heard other people say the same thing, because Merlin and Oracle of Delphi were not as well accepted as some of the previous ones. So therefore, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's back to his best with this one."
It feels like you're under more pressure. You are being forced to make hard decisions, especially in the... Well, I've only played it 2-player, again, like pretty much everything. But it's got a thing where you end up with 2 tiles on your turn, and you're going to keep one for yourself and pass one to the other person. And maybe it's the same in a game with more players, but it's, you've only got one opponent. You can see what they're going for. It's really tense in that, like, well, I don't want this tile at all, but I can see that it's absolutely perfect for you. And I could be destroying the game by handing this tile to you, so maybe I'm going to have to take something rubbish for it.
Yep,
it's brilliant.
It's similar in multiplayer because you always pass to the right.
Ah, right.
So it's always the player on your right that you're going, oh, well, I know she would really need this tile right now, so I'm not going to pass. It's not that you have to be aware of everybody in the game. You just have to look at the player to your right for the purpose of the passing of tiles. But I think I said it because I've done a review of this one, and I think I said it in my review. The 2-player definitely does feel more confrontational because it's like, right, it is just 1 versus 1. But when I filmed my review video, it's my favourite Stefan Feld game.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I love it. I think it's brilliant. Since then...
What was your previous?
Trajan. It used to be Castles of Burgundy, but then I started playing Trajan a bit more, and now it's this one. I don't know whether this is my favourite Feld right now because it's a bit Cult of the New. And if I was to go back and play Trajan, I'd go, oh no, actually Trajan might be my favourite. I don't know. But right now, Forum Trajanum, I absolutely love it. The only concern I have with the game is I've played it 5 times, and every single time has been won by somebody moving their bar to the end. That seems to be a little strong. So, who knows?
Do some investigation, everybody. Show us your workings.
I've heard it from other people as well. And it's like, oh, okay, so what do we do? Do we now all metagame it and we all go into the next game knowing, right, that's the really, really strong strategy, so then everybody does that? I don't know. I'd love it if that wasn't the case, because in order to move the bar along, you've got to put a citizen in a certain place, and you might not get that citizen at the start.
Was that just... like, if lots of people go for it, will that weaken it overall? No? Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate.
And it's not just the bar on its own. The citizen number 3, which moves the bar along, combined with citizen number 1, which allows you to put citizens in the forum in any location rather than following the normal rules. Those 2 combined are just really good. So, as I say, played 5 games, won 4 of them moving the bar to the end, and then lost out on one of the games by about a few points to somebody who moved the bar all the way to the end. So potentially some balance problem, but as I say, it's a lovely game, and I just love the way that it plays. So yeah, that's Forum Trajanum. Right, next, Futuropia. Now I've played this and done a review of it. Has anybody else played it?
I've played it and done a playthrough of it.
Oh, you did? Yes, I watched your playthrough to learn how to play.
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The game or Tom?
Everything. Yeah, I thought
Everything. Oh,
my money was on Marty there. So remind me what you thought of it, Tom.
We really enjoyed it. We haven't realised that when I was excited about it, I haven't really played, outside of Power Grid, I don't think I've played any Freedom and Free big box games.
Right.
Anyway. And so, yeah, the people have talked about Power Grid Factory Manager.
Yep.
It's apparently similar to that.
Yep.
Haven't played that.
Right.
But just as its own separate thing, I really enjoyed it. It's a bit confusing how you order your people, and like people are supposed to stand on top of where they came from if there's a robot, but then you change these food production things underneath or energy production things, and then it throws everything out of whack, and you have to rejig things.
Yeah.
I found that really that was a pain. And
yeah.
The rulebook is very unclear about that part of the game.
The rulebook is, as you say, very unclear about what is a key part of the game.
It talks. Is it a term or something? It talks about. It uses the same word to mean two completely different things at some point in it.
Unoccupied?
Yeah, and
it means one thing in one place and one thing in another place.
Yeah.
But the whole shuffling down and moving, it's fiddly, it's messy, and. We found it's easier if you don't do what it says in the rule book.
Yeah, but and it's very specific about you need to do it like this.
Yeah,
but we like I was kind of when I was playing it for the first time with Rachel, she was kind of saying, no, it says do this. You need to do it properly, and I was like, but I can't see a reason for it. Can I just leave it messy?
It just makes it worse. In terms of the game, it's kind of had a mixed reception. And I get it. I mean, I like it because it's a game that's very different from every other game that I brought back from Essen. And it is, very simple in its mechanisms. It's like, right, here's the 5 actions, and you can, every time you do an action, you flip a tile over, and then when all the tiles are flipped over, you flip them all back and off you go again. But if you pay some money, you can flip them back earlier. So it effectively becomes, a puzzle. What actions am I going to take? In what order am I going to take them? And when am I going to refresh my tiles? And some of the criticisms that I've heard are, well, it's just a bit samey. All you're doing is the same thing.
I'd kind of worry about that from game to game. We didn't really feel it like while we were playing. We really enjoyed it and came off with a good impression of it. But we then looked through all of it. It comes with a lot of stuff in the back of the rulebook, a lot of like pick 2 tiles at the start of your next game, and there will be 2 new rules tweaks to try and make everything a bit different. I think even though it's got all of that in it, we read them all and thought, how different is that really going to feel though? that what you take out the 8 cost power station and you replace it with a 9 or something like that, or you like all of the tiles that you can buy, the residences and things have 2 sides. And it's like, okay, now play with them all on the other side. But there is a variant where instead of everybody starting the exact same way, you can turn all of the residences over and nobody starts with one. You have to buy your starting residence, and you can go for one with a special power on it. You can go cheap, or you can get one of the massive ones. It's a case where I'd just say play it like that to start with. Yeah. So everyone's on a bit of a different path. Don't play it the normal way.
I've played it like 4 times and I've not played it with that, but I had the same impression as you. I was thinking, right, I've played it 4 times now. Let's start adding in this extra stuff. Oh, is that it? Is that all it changes? It's really the changes that it makes to the game are fairly minimal. Yeah. I mean, to combat against the repetitive nature of the game, your game's going to take you 45 minutes to an hour, which is fine. Yeah. And yet all you're doing is, I'll buy another food factory. I'll move my workers around. I'll produce food. Right, I'll spend food. It's just that on repeat. There is no there's nothing else that you do in the game other than that. But because it's a relatively short game, it's fine, and it's just. It's just putting it together. So I'd happily play it again. It's nothing super exciting. It's just, it was a bit different. from other games. Right, Futuropia. Next one is Gugong. Where was that on the list? That was third on Matt's list. And that's it.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Tabletop Together Tool. It was in 5th place on that.
Oh, wow.
So,
everyone else has been missing out.
Have you played it?
Great.
Have you played it?
I've played it once.
Right.
So first impression, really good. Really good. The things I thought were going to be good about it, the whole card exchange mechanic, which is how you select your actions and how it ties into the theme of it being a gift exchange. You know, you're not allowed to bribe anymore, but you can give people nicer gifts than they give you. That's not bribery.
Nope. Not at all.
Nope. And yeah, it came together really well for my play of it.
Okay.
There were a couple of players who didn't do so well in it. Were kind of complaining that they felt a bit like they didn't have many options because, you know, in order to get things working, you kind of have to play higher than the card that's already in the space.
Okay.
But, you know, if you play lower, you have to pay extra costs. But, like, how much is that because of how they played the game? And if they played it better, they would have been in more control over what was going on, like me and the guy who came second. So I'm not sure, obviously. I've only played it once.
You've only played it once.
But it's something I'm going to watch out for on future plays. Yeah. But, so, yeah, I really enjoy it.
I have had a few chances to play it this month, but and last month as well, but I've been trying to focus on the games that I'm working on at the moment. So, yeah, I've not had a chance, but a few of my friends have got it. The deluxe edition looks amazing.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And some of my friends have said it's absolutely fantastic and love it, and one of them has said no, it's awful. So I'm like, okay, right.
He's outvoted.
we will see. We'll see how I feel about it. But yeah, that's Gugong. Right, moving on. Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr was. Where was this on everybody's list? It was third on Tom's list, and I think that might be it. Yeah, third on Tom's list. So,
yay!
Had you played it at that point, Tom?
I'd played a demo game. I played the first game at the UK Games Expo.
Right.
Yeah,
that's as much as I've played it as well.
Yeah,
the demo at the UK Games Expo,
and it was pretty much the game. It didn't change during then.
Yeah, and you now have a copy.
Yes,
and you played it more.
We've played 4 games out of the 10?
10? Yeah, 10.
I believe in the campaign, which seems like, it is at the back of my mind that it's been 3 months now. What have you been doing? But
he's in hospital. He's struggling and you're taking a 3-month break.
Poor Billy. But yeah, that's kind of I've mentioned that in my top 10 that, like, as excited as I am about campaign games and as much as we enjoy them, they kind of get left by the wayside when we have to keep playing other games as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of before, especially with legacy games, I'm kind of, before I do a video, I want to complete the entire thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of gotten to the point now where maybe I'm just going to have to say, at game 4, here's what I think about it.
Right.
Because
but you are going to play
there's not
the rest
time.
of them, aren't you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
It's not like other games, naming no names, other very recent campaign games, we didn't quite get to the end of because there's no time and we're really not enthused. And we've done it before where we've just gotten to the end of a game because I wanted to finish it and talk about it, and I felt no different about it. I probably felt a bit more negative about it, having forced ourselves to play it several more times. But with Holding On, really, really enjoying it. It's it's everything that I was excited about from the demo game that we had in Essen. It's like I say, we've only played 40% of the story, so there's still a lot of stuff to be added, I would imagine.
And how long does it take you for a game? I'm guessing
very
about
quick.
An hour?
Yeah, it's probably about 40 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
2 players, best way to play. Snappy.
So Matt, have you played it since the initial first demo?
No, I haven't. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure whether I want to that much. There was a very weird thematic disconnect for me when I played it. It's like,
right,
you're supposed to be, getting this deep and emotional story out of this guy. But that whole story memory mechanic, which is really good, is tied onto this cooperative system that feels like a satire on the NHS.
Right.
And like those two things just don't go together in a very good way in my mind.
Okay.
It's like, are you going to treat Billy's illness, or are you going to force him to tell you things?
Yeah.
Right, and it's like, am I in a hospital, or am I in a CIA black site?
I get what you're saying, because the goal of the scenario is to, have a certain number of things in a certain number of places, and in order to do that, you're going to have to ask him questions. But each card that comes out, your option is ask him questions or provide medical care. And you're like, well, so we have to forego providing the medical care in order to get this card, which is the aim of the scenario. But I get what you're saying on that one. So, I mean, I've played the first scenario, and it's a little tricky for me because Hub Games are now asking me to do some rulebook work for them, so they are effectively becoming a client because they said that they'd had so much negative criticism over the rulebook for holding on, and a few people had suggested that they speak to me, that I've now gone through the rulebook and pointed out a number of areas where we were basically unable to play the game without guessing at what the mechanics were. So the rulebook wasn't as bad as what some people are saying, but there were some bits of it which were really, really bad. But I have my own opinions of the game, having played it once. So I sat down and we played the first scenario, and we played it with Vicky and my dad, and we might not be playing another one. We're probably not going to play another one. So we were expecting, and I'd been told this beforehand, that this is a narrative-driven game, but there's a bit of a game in there as well. But mostly it's the story, it's how the story evolves. And that's the kind of games that certainly Vicky likes playing. And it's the kind of games that we were playing with my dad as well. We played a few games which were a lot more story driven. There's a game in there, obviously, but it's the story that carries it. And I'd been sort of informed that this game is all about the story, but yes, there's a bit of a game in there as well. And we all came away from it feeling that there was actually very little story, and it was 95% a game. And I know I'm going to come in for some criticism on this because the story is what this game is all about. But having a few lines of flavour, going back to what I said about Blackout Hong Kong, having a few lines of flavour text at the start of the story, and then you play a game and the objective of that game is to get a pattern of cards, and then at the end, if you succeed, you read the next bit of story. That's not a narrative-driven game for me. It's like Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven, you get the story at the start, you read the scenario introduction, then you play Gloomhaven, which is a tactical miniatures combat game, and then when the game's finished, you then read the next bit of story. There isn't actually any evolving story within the game itself. It's just a game. Now, I did love the way, apart from the thing that Matt mentioned, I loved the thematic nature of the mechanics. The fact that, oh, well, you're going to need two people to operate this shift, and, Dave's on holiday because it's that Dave again. He's found his shoes, but now he's gone on holiday because he's stressed. So we've had to give him a day off. So he's not working. We're going to have to call in the on-call assistant. And, sorry, Tom, but you're going to have to work a double shift. And then you get stressed because you've had to work a double shift. That whole mechanic there it just felt very, very thematic and very realistic, and in the way that whole thing hangs together there. But ultimately, as I say, we felt that the game itself was just a mechanical game that might have even worked better as a solo game. Just sort of flipping the cards over and deciding where to allocate stuff and deciding how to spend tokens to get the cards. The getting of the cards we felt was a bit random.
Yep.
You draw cards from the bottom of the thing, and you might get, you'll draw like 3 cards, and then you look through them, and if none of them match one of the ones that's on the table, then you've failed and you shuffle them back in or whatever. And that's just completely random. Now, the other thing about the story, and the reason why I know I'm going to come in for some criticism by saying there's no story, is And for those people who don't know the game, there is a set of these story cards, and there are, is it 30 of them, I think? So either 25 or 30. There's basically 5 different timelines, 5 periods in Billy's life which are of great importance, and you are trying to talk to him during the game and get him to talk about those times in his life. And the way that that's done in the game is with these cards, with this really cool artwork, where you lay them out in a kind of jigsaw pattern. And there's little marks on the cards to tell you which timeline it's from, and then there's little stitch marks on the side to tell you what goes where. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to convert those memories into real memories. And that's one of the objectives of the first scenario. And each of those 5 timelines does tell a story, not in word form, but in picture form, about that important time of his life. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but by the end of our first game, we'd got probably about more than half of these picture cards on the table. So we knew what each of those 5 timelines was about, and we're like, oh right, so this is the point in his life where spoiler, 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 spoiler. Oh right, okay. And then this is the time in his life where clearly there was trouble at home and there was this, that and the other. And we thought that was nice and really well done. But it's exactly the same set of cards for every scenario. So once you
it's going to depend what it depends what comes out in the future games, whether you're going to see more of it. But as you could potentially just see that same part.
We might, but we've seen all 5 timelines, and we've seen enough of each of the cards in each timeline to know what those timelines are about. So if we do play again, scenario 2 is going to be, oh, we've got that card, that goes here. That's it. We're not going to look at that picture again and go, oh look, he's sat on the park bench crying. I wonder why he's crying. He's obviously upset about something. What's happened? We're not going to do that the second time we play, because we already know it will just be that those cards might as well have, 3-4 on it to say it's from the 3rd timeline and it goes in the 4th position. So your first play of this game is going to be great, because you are going to be putting together this backstory of Billy's life, and that's really, really nice. But I think once you've played it 1 or 2 times, I mean, and this is what I'm curious about, Tom, when you played scenario 4, if you can remember, were you going back and looking at those artworks of those cards again and sort of reliving that story again?
Yeah, I'd say not really. It's definitely the most exciting, your first game, where you are figuring out how it all stitches together, figuring out which timeline it comes from, but how it all kind of comes together. And yeah, it's got like little flavor text things on the back as well that relate to that specific memory. But
yeah. And we read them the first time we played, but we're not going to read them the second time we play.
I suppose it depends how quickly you play it all as well. We've probably, it's been long enough that maybe it'd be a little fresh to us again now.
You might remind her. Yeah. So I mean, I love the fact that they've tackled the subject. The game is very, very different, and it's tackling, it's coming at games from a different angle, and I love that. And I love the way it's presented. I love the thematic nature of the mechanics. And I love the way that the stories are very thought-provoking of what happens in Billy's life. But at the end of the day, it just appeared to be a sort of putting cards in a jigsaw until you get the right pattern. And the overall story is just, it's a few lines of flavour text at the start of the scenario, and then when you succeed, it's a few lines of flavour text at the end of the scenario, and that was it.
I've heard it builds up to something quite a bit more by the end. I don't know, and I'm not sure how that would happen, because I've not seen like what's in the box.
No, but the mechanics won't change of the game. There's no, apart from scenario 2, something changes between scenario 1 and 2, but and you're allowed to do a different type of action from scenario 2 onwards. But as I say, it's always the same 25 or 30 story picture cards, so that is not going to change. It's just every scenario will have a slightly different objective and a slightly different rule. But I mean, as you say, it probably builds up to something at the end, but that's just a bit of narrative text on the back of a card that you would read either at the start or at the end of the game. And I'm thinking of something like Arkham Horror, which I view as very much a narrative game, because there is narrative during the game. You open the door, read an extra bit of text, more narrative. Something's happened. the scenario goes in a completely different way from the last time you played it, and we get more narrative text. So, and time stories and things like that. That's very much a narrative game, in that there's a lot of narrative going on during the game itself. Anyway, there we go. That's that. I've been wanting to talk about this, and I haven't actually talked about it yet to anybody. I wouldn't be doing a review video of it, but yeah. So I kind of think I might want to play it again, but yeah, with Vicky and my dad, it was like, yeah. And it wasn't the theme that put them off, it was the fact that it was just a bit of an abstract sort of puzzle game with the story tacked onto the front and the end. Yeah, and as I say, I know I'm going to come in for some criticism on that, because it's against what everybody else seems to be saying about it.
No, I'd say it's definitely, yeah, you're right, it's not a purely story game. And like it's got a little bit of game on it. It's definitely mainly the game, and it is quite a simple co-op game as well. It's not like some like crazy intricate mechanical thing that's going to blow you away. Yeah, it's a game that you could introduce people to, but it's definitely that's the theme, and going in different directions is definitely what's exciting about it. Going in different directions for board games. Yes. Not in the game. You go in one direction, I believe. You do, yeah. And I think a part of my feeling about the game was the perception that I had of what the game was going to be, i.e., it was going to be an 80% a narrative game with a bit of a game tacked on. Yeah. It was completely the opposite of that, and that kind of threw us a bit. So moving on to other games where if you go into it with the false perception, or with a perception that it's going to be one thing and then it turns out to be something else. Magnastorm. This was on my list and it was second. Wow. I'd put this, but bearing in mind my top 5 were not really in any order, but it was my second most anticipated game that came out at Essen. Now, Tom, at the time you said you weren't interested because you thought there was quite a lot of take that in there. Yeah, I think it seemed, maybe it was the mechs or something like that. I just kind of thought, it doesn't look interesting to me. I can't remember anything that he said. Right. But again, John in Essen evangelized about it and said that there was this thing about actions, putting actions on the top or bottom, something like that. And it sounded exciting then, but
and then you saw the mechs.
That was 3 months ago.
You thought there might have been fighting.
Well, yeah, that was my initial perception. I think, like, when I was in the mode of, I need to make this Essen list, how do I discount any game for any reason, so I'm not going to talk about 300 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been a casualty of that.
Okay. And you've not gone back and had a look at it? You've not seen it?
No, I know nothing more. Well, yeah, I did know something that sounded exciting, but I can't remember what that thing is anymore.
And Matt?
My only memory of Magnastorm is turtles.
Space turtles.
Space turtles, yeah.
Pink space turtles.
Yep, that is it.
Okay.
I have not looked at it. I'm not looking for it.
Right.
So unless you're about to blow my mind with how good this game is, Paul.
It's really good.
Is it really?
Not when we first played it. We all went into it. Right. It's by Spiel. So Terra Mystica, Gaia Project. It's in a big box. It's got miniatures, right? We were expecting a big, complex, 3.5 hour game with tech trees. We were expecting that. It's not. It's not at all. So I had something to do. So friends of mine were going to play it downstairs. I had something to do. I said, well, can you learn how to play it? And I'll pop back down in like 10 or 15 minutes and you can teach me. And they was like, yeah, that's fine. So I left him to it. I went downstairs 10 minutes later and he went, yeah, I'm ready. And I was like, oh, right. And he said, yeah, it doesn't look that complicated. And we're like, okay, well, we'll see how we go. And by the end of the first game, it was, and we played like a dozen games that weekend. It was one of the most disappointing games that we'd played that weekend. And it was like, well, I've since played it twice, or maybe even 3 times more. So I've played it 3 or 4 times now, and now I really like it. Because if you go into the game thinking, right, this isn't a Gaia project, this is actually a, 60 to 75 minute, relatively light sort of area control game with an extremely cool action selection mechanism. And every time I've taught it to people since then, that's how I've sold it to them on that, and then we've gone on to play it and enjoy it. So it was our initial perception of the game compared to what the game actually turned out to be that really threw us. And yeah, the action selection mechanism is very, very clever, and yeah, I'd recommend trying it.
All right.
It's not what I thought it was. And the area control bit, Tom, it's not aggressive really in any way. Certainly there's no knocking anybody else out. It's just your normal area control bits. Each region scores at the end of the round, and it scores in two ways. So it depending on how many turtles you have in an area at the end of the round, irrespective of what everybody else has got, you will score certain things. But then whoever's got the most in the area will score 1 point at the end of the round. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously there might be a little bit of a race to get to certain places ahead of the other player, but that's nothing. Yeah, it's not confrontational really at all. But yeah, I mean the game lasts for 3 or 4 rounds. I've had, I think it's a maximum of 4 rounds, and I've played one game that ended on round 3, and it's like, what is that it? And in each round you only get to do, half a dozen actions at the most, and the actions are relatively quick and simple. It's just really nice. It does have, and I've mentioned this in my review, so I've done a review of this as well, one of what I thought initially was the worst ideas ever, which, surprise, surprise, turned round after a couple of games to go, this is an amazing idea, right? I'm so fickle. But we played our first game, and in setup, you have these 3 big piles of cards. I mean, like 150 cards or something like that. And you put them out, and you put them by the side of the board. And they sit there for the whole game. And then we get to the end of the game, and we're like, well, what are those cards? And then at the end of the game, based on your finishing positions, you get one of those cards. You're like, right, so I'm getting this card at the end of the game. What's this about? And then it says something, something, something. You might want to take your card home with you so that when you play the game at somebody else's house, you can present. And I'm like, what? This is stupid. This is crazy. Right, so it's brilliant. What it is if you finish a game in first place, you get a gold card. And if you finish the game in last place, you get a bronze card, and this, that, and the other. So what I've got is I've got ones in Ziploc bags. I've got a little list of who's got what cards. And basically, if you are playing a game of Magnastorm, right, and everybody at that table has played it at least twice, i.e. they have at least 2 cards, then everybody shuffles their cards that they have, picks 2 at random, and then you reveal them, and that determines what starting bonuses you get and the initial turn order. It's a handicap system over a period of several games, which is genius. It's just... It's a really nice way of doing it, and that's what it is. So I've now played 3 or 4 games of it, so I have 3 or 4 cards in my Ziploc bag, and as soon as and Paul, who I've played with a couple of times, he's got 2 cards in his bag. So if we ever now play a 2-player game, we will be using those cards, and it's not a big thing, but basically because I've got more gold cards in my bag than he has, he's probably going to start the game with an extra resource or something like that. It's a minor effect. But it's it's a handicap system that takes place over several games if you're playing, with the same group, which I thought was quite cool and different.
Yeah, it's a nice little consideration.
I did put a message out, I think, on some Facebook group to say, has any other game done this? And the only one people could think of was Nations.
Yeah.
At the start of, and it isn't a handicap system over various games. It's just at the start of Nations, each player chooses their skill level, so you can have one player starting with king level and another player starting with a different one. But
it just affects the resources you get as well.
Right.
Like at the start of each round, you can either choose to put a person out, or you can get an amount of resources.
Okay.
The amount of resources you would get is more or less depending on your difficulty level.
Right. But
it's nice that there's something there.
It is. It's just, as I say, we spent the whole first game with this massive pile of cards sat next to the board, wondering what it was about. So Magnastorm, I'd recommend trying it. I think it's going to be an under the radar game. I don't think it's going to be massively popular, unlike Terra Mystica and Gaia Project. But quite liked it. Definitely play it again. Right, moving on. Reichholt. Now that was on Tom's list.
Yeah.
It was second.
Ooh.
Was it on anybody else's list? No.
I think so.
No, not. Right. So, did you pick up a copy at Essen?
Yes. That's been played through.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's always very excited, perhaps sometimes more excited than I should be about Uwe Rosenberg things.
Yeah.
But if I'd say that I didn't realise until I went into the Renegade booth that it was intended to be an introduction to Uwe Rosenberg game.
Yeah.
All I'd heard before was that it was kind of streamlining at the Gates of Loyang.
Yep.
Which it does. It uses some things from that. It uses, it's got the fields where you're planting things. Instead of paying money to get points at the end of the round, you're trying to advance on these tables that need certain vegetables to be paid to advance to the next table. So there's some similarities, but it's got worker placement rather than all of the lovely card drafting-y stuff that's in Loyang. But anyway, I think that, we enjoyed it. It's definitely, we're old, wizened Uwe Rosenberg. Well, Rachel isn't. She doesn't really like him. But I am a wizened old Uwe Rosenberg nerd. And so, I liked it, but I can't see when I would play that over anything else.
Okay.
Over Loyang or Agricola or Mercator or Glassroad or anything, really.
Right.
But it's there as a lovely intro. And as well, if you want a Uwe Rosenberg game that's got kind of that, the flavour of more complex stuff, and it plays in like half an hour for a 2-player game. It's insanely quick, so that's something it's got going for it. It's not a really light basic game, but it's got something to it, and it's really, really, really quick. So that could be something as well.
Yeah,
but I'd say for us, as nice as everything was in it, would play any of the others over it, I think.
Okay, Matt, have you had a chance to look at it?
I've not played it. No, it's definitely on my list too, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
My thoughts a bit match Tom's. As a lighter Uwe Rosenberg game, it's a very good introduction. I think it has some of the very... It's definitely a Rosenberg game, but without the the massive complexity and the playtime. Because I love Fields of Arle, Caverna, Feast for Odin, and everything else. But they're not gateway games. You can't sit down and play them without having experienced players. Whereas Reichholt, I taught my dad how to play. And he played it. And my dad's, I would say now, with me forcing games on him for the last 4 months, he is now able to do that sort of stuff. But it was fine. And it plays very quick. And it's quite nice. And it takes, as Tom said, it's similar to the Gates of Loyang in some of the mechanics, but a lot less player interaction. I think Loyang, there was potentially a bit too much of taking each other's things at times.
Yeah, there's about 10 cards in Loyang. Anyone thinking of buying Loyang, or you've got a copy, there's about 10 cards. Get them together. Yeah, rip them up, throw them away. The game doesn't need them. And as soon as you take those games out, like, before I got Loyang, I heard all this, like, oh, don't play it at such and such a player count. It takes so long because it's got this weird turn order thing. Get rid of those cards that mess with each other. You can all play at the same time. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, I liked it. Going back to what we were saying earlier on, story mode. And again, I did a review of Reichholt. Where
Reichholt has a story mode.
Yeah, so Reichholt has a story mode, right? And I'm going to say exactly the same thing as I said about Blackout. It's not a story mode in any way, shape or form. It's, here's scenario 1 with a slight variant rule. Right, now, here's scenario 2 with a slight variant rule. That's it. It's just variants.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they've put it in there because those variants actually do... They make a bit of a change and they do give the game a different slant, but it's not a story mode at all.
No. I think part of it is their thinking in the mindset of it being an introductory game. Part of it is there to hide away some of the more complex cards that come out in this story mode. So if you were a person that was really new to board games or this kind of board game, then it gives you the more simple cards to use in the box, and then in the story mode sealed pack, okay, game one, here's some more cards that you can add into that.
Sealed packs as well.
Yeah, now I totally agree with that.
Farm fresh.
The service cards, the ones that are included not in the sealed pack, are good ones to introduce. And then in the sealed pack, there are more advanced ones. But I don't think there was any need to bundle them in with the story mode. They could have just put advanced service cards. Open this pack once you've played a few games.
Yeah.
That, So, what did you think about the event cards? Did you use the event cards?
I don't think so.
Right.
My first thought was, what event cards?
Yeah.
So I don't think we did.
The event cards that you're supposed to use in story mode, but you can also use them in the normal game.
No, we didn't
Right.
use them. And the event card usually is something that will put me right off a game.
Yeah. So those 10 cards from Gates of Loyang that you've put together in the fire, do the same with the event cards.
Really?
Yeah.
More just unnecessary, random
Oh, at the
stealing.
start of the round, turn it over. Right, everybody with a carrot, lose a carrot. What? But I've planned I got a carrot, lose it. Next round, everybody with a size 3 greenhouse gets a bonus lettuce. Oh, well, you've got a size 3 greenhouse, luckily, randomly, and you don't. Yeah. I mean, some of them are okay, like everybody may now exchange 2 goods for any other 2 goods.
Yeah.
Could
Things
you
like
not
that.
play them out and have see the next few
If you want
rounds
to,
worth?
there's just no need. There's
No, because I feel like if you know what's coming, then that makes it interesting, and you need to work around those.
Yeah.
I can totally see them just dropping out of the sky to be quite annoying. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you get a free cabbage out of the sky, that sounds quite good.
No, that's what I'd do. If I ever was forced to play with them again, I'd say, right, I'm going to reveal this at the start of the round. This happens at the end of the round. So that you see, it's just, event cards. Didn't like them in any way. Just added randomness to it.
It's got a nice little thing in the worker placement where they're kind of arranged in columns based on the type of action they are. Mm-hmm. And there's flags on certain actions, and the one player can't take more than one action that's got a flag on it in one column. And that's interesting for kind of balancing out how many times you can do not necessarily powerful actions, but say one person can't just hog all the greenhouses because that's a good strategy. You can only take one of those actions. So there's something always available for you. Not necessarily the best thing, but there's some way of getting it.
Yeah, that's a bit I really liked. The worker placement with a twist. So the green spaces, some of the spaces are green, and each player can only use 1 green space per round, and you're like, and then the red spaces, and again, you can only use 1 of the red spaces. And I thought, when I first played it, I thought, that's an interesting idea. And then when you actually look at what those spaces are, the green ones are all about getting greenhouses, which is an absolutely essential part of the game. So basically it means everybody has a chance to get a greenhouse. And it makes sense, it works, and it's a nice, clever way of basically saying, right, if you've used this space this round, you then can't use this space as well. So, right, Colt. Next one. Teotihuacan, which was very high on a lot of people's list, I think. It was 4th on Tom's list. It was first on it was Matt's first choice. It was first choice on the Tabletop Together tool and first choice on the Board Game Trading and Chat UK Facebook group. And the only reason it wasn't on my list is I'd already had it and I'd already played it a couple of times. Matt, it was number 1 on your most anticipated games from Essen. And
I've played it once.
And thought it was awful.
I played it last weekend.
Yep.
I really liked it. It's quite fiddly.
Yeah.
As the one negative, you always have to do lots and lots of little things as part of every action. But despite that, it still flows really nicely. I really love the dice.
Yeah.
Rondel mechanic. I think that's great. I'm very keen to play it some more and get to know it a bit better.
I'm the same. I mean, I've not played it since, I played it twice last year, I think before Essen, and I've not played it since. I am almost desperate to play it again because I just loved it. I think it's fantastic. I agree. It's a bit fiddly. There's a few fiddly bits, but the choices in the game, and I just loved. I mean, it's very simple. It's choose one of your workers and move it up to 3 spaces clockwise, but you've got 3 workers. And then you do the action where you land. but it's just so many interesting choices and so many different things that you can do in the game. I loved it.
I think that kind of physical fiddliness kind of fits with the layers of decisions you're making when you're figuring out where to go. It's like, right, well, if I move this one here, then I get this happens, but he's not quite the right level yet. Maybe I want to level him up first and then, coordinate with my other dice and Well,
that's it, yeah. It's not just workers that you're moving around, it's workers that are dice, and the number of pips on the dice indicates how strong they are, and as they take actions, they get stronger, so then you can do other action, and it's just...
Yep.
Yeah. So, if I was to do a top 5 games that came out at Essen, that would be very high on my list, I think. Have you played it since, Tom?
I don't think I've played it, and this is kind of true for most of my games.
Yeah.
I don't think I've played it since the playthrough that is the video.
Right.
So it's been quite a while now. But
would you play it again?
Yeah, definitely. We loved it. It was I think it was 10 in my top 10 of the year. So that's a guarantee of quality for you.
Well, yeah, but 10th?
Yeah, there's 9 better games.
I need to look at that list again.
I can't recall what they are.
No, I mean, I've watched that video. I can't remember what you put in there as well.
But yeah, there's 9 better apparently.
Well, I know one of them. Right, so yeah, Teotihuacan, we've all played it. We all loved it. Excellent. Right, Terraforming Mars Colonies, which was, again, not on any of our lists, but it was third choice on the Board Game Trading and Chat Facebook group, because it's fair to say Terraforming Mars is still, 2 years on, a massively popular game, and it's still being played everywhere you look. So it's understandable that the latest expansion was on everybody's most anticipated list. I have now played with Terraforming Mars Colonies.
Ooh.
Anybody else?
Nope. I've still only played Terraforming Mars once.
Yeah,
Me
so
too.
have I.
Well, for real.
Really?
Yeah,
I did a solo game in the playthrough, so technically twice.
So yeah, I have now played, for the first time, Terraforming Mars, the actual board game, and Colonies was being used while I was playing it. And I did a colony action, because they said to me at the start, they said, look, Paul, we've played this game 50 times, you've not played it at all, so we're going to play with colonies, but you could just completely ignore them. You don't have to do them. But I did one of them, and it was a wrong decision. I ended up, it was a bit of a wasted action, and it didn't really reap the benefits that I paid for it. I still won the game. But
What?
Oh, I know. This is the thing. I filmed my... Which video was it that I filmed? Oh, it was the Patreon supporters top 10 games of all time. So earlier this year, I basically, for November and December, I was asking my Patreon supporters to basically use a Google form and fill in what their top 10 games of all time are. In January, we put all of those results together, and I did a video on the top 10 games of all time as voted on by my Patreon supporters, right? And I filmed it on a Wednesday, and Terraforming Mars was on that list. I think it was either 5th or 4th or something like that. And I said the story that I've never actually played this game. And the reason why I haven't played this game is that all of my friends have played it 50 times, and they're all experts at it. And if I sit down and play with them now, and I'm the complete noob, not only will I possibly slow the game down a bit, but I'll just feel totally out of my depth, totally overwhelmed. And we're going to be drafting cards. I'm going to be the one that screws the game up because I've passed the wrong cards to the wrong players. So I was a bit nervous about playing it, and that nervousness has gone on and obviously got worse and worse over time as they got even better at the game. But finally, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, sat down and we went, right, we're going to play it, and we played it and I won. And it's just like, how did this happen? And they went, well, you're good at games. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't really... To be fair, I've been playing the app quite a bit. I've been playing it on the PC, where the AI is not very good at all. So I've been getting used to the mechanics. But even during the game, they knew what they were doing, and I really didn't. But I still managed to win. So anyway, so that's Terraforming Mars. But Colonies, from my little experience with the game, Colonies does add something that's quite nice. What it adds is the ability for you to trade something into something else. And it's done in a very cool thematic way that you establish this colony, You get something for establishing the colony, but then the trade value builds up, and then anybody can go to that colony and trade, like, oh, I'll trade, heat for, steel or something like that, whatever that colony is trading for. And then the person who's built colonies on there gets a bonus because you've used it. It's, yeah. I felt that even though I only did it a little bit and it was a mistake for me to do it, I felt that it did add something quite nice to the game. So, yeah.
I could have sworn I'd read Tony Boydell's blog where he was moaning about it.
Probably.
But maybe it was the price of it, because is it just like a small deck of cards or something?
Yeah.
It's not very...
Yeah.
I've seen people complain about all the expansions, I think.
You don't get very much.
Okay.
You don't get very much. Thankfully, some friends of mine got together and got it me for Christmas.
Hey.
Because just before... Yeah, it was around sometime in December. I was having a conversation with somebody and I said, Terraforming Mars, it's a game I should have in my collection. And I don't. Even though, it's like Puerto Rico and Kalis and classic games like that. It's a game that I feel, as a gamer, I should have a copy of Terraforming Mars because it is a staple, solid, classic game. And then, a few weeks later, opened a package and, oh, look, it's Terraforming Mars. So that was quite cool. But yeah, that's Terraforming Mars Colonies. Right, moving on. The boldest, which was Matt. It was on your list. It was 4th.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to play it?
I haven't had a chance.
Yeah,
I haven't had any chance. I haven't seen it anyway.
You've played it, haven't you, Tom?
Yes. Pass.
And you thought it was brilliant, didn't you?
I played it once. It was... this could, so potentially we could have played it completely wrong, for all I know. I just played it and was taught it, so I could blame other people.
You could.
But yeah, we had such an awful experience playing with it.
Yeah.
We spent...
Wow.
It was a game where when we finished playing it, we all kind of sat around flabbergasted that, what happened? What did we just play?
Oh, no.
We didn't feel like one of the players, we didn't realise, but one of the players said at the end that he just resorted to playing random cards because he was having such an awful time. And he won by quite a way by doing that. We didn't feel like we made a decision through the entire game. Even I think the other two people were not quite as annoyed about their experience, but were definitely kind of... I was hoping that this was... I was really crossing my fingers that this was something special, and while they weren't dismissing it yet, they were disappointed. And,
but you said at the start, as a caveat, you may have played it completely wrong.
For all I know, because it was one that Noria was another one that I got excited about when it came out and was quite disappointed with what they... Not in the same way, not to the same degree at all.
Right.
But we ultimately were quite disappointed with Noria, especially as a 2-player game.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But so it was one that I'd kind of we didn't like Noria, and nothing's really exciting me about what it says. I think after the podcast you'd made me think, wait, maybe I need to think about this game because you were excited about it. You were excited about it.
Yeah, based off of the description of the mechanics, reading the rulebook, but
yeah,
sometimes it's difficult to tell.
Yeah, so are you due to play it, Matt, at some point? Do you know anybody who's got it?
I don't know anyone who's got it, at least not. No. Yeah.
So I have a copy.
I'll try and source it eventually, but...
Yeah, I have a copy.
Yes.
Next time we're in the same place at the same time, let me know.
We can play it and prove me wrong. I think I said at the time when I tweeted about it in Essen, and you were disappointed. I was like, please play it and tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me what we missed, because it was one of those games where we're like, surely
it can't be like that.
If this is the actual experience, how did this get made?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that
Okay. Well, me and Matt will play it.
Pages stuck together or something,
and then we'll talk afterwards. So we'll get together for podcast 67 probably next year.
And we'll talk about all these games again.
We'll talk about all these games again. 10 years on, what do we think about them now? Right, so that's the boldest. If you've played it, let us know what you think about it. Did Tom play it completely wrong? Although you're not going to know. Right, finally, we've reached the end of the list. This was going to be like a half-hour podcast. We've been going for an hour and 20. Underwater Cities, which was Tom's most anticipated game, and it wasn't on my list. Why wasn't it on my list? I don't know why it wasn't on my list. I'm just looking at my top 5. Okay, it wasn't on my list. So, Underwater Cities. Tom, you'd already played this just before Essen?
Yeah, I think it was one of the ones in the mad panic.
It was.
To do more videos.
Because you got an advanced prototype of it, which was pretty much the finished version, wasn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't very... I think it was just like the punch board was hand cut and stuff.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful, isn't it?
How many times have you played it since?
No times.
Oh, right.
pretty much everything is like, it's been filmed now. Okay, now look at the towering pile of angry games that haven't been filmed and do one of them. But yeah, it is a game I would play at any point. Maybe not if I just had an accident, but like just right now while I'm sitting at a table, I would play Underwater Cities.
So in your top 10 games of last year, where was it?
It was one. I remembered another game that was on that list. It's my favourite game of the year. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
It was your most anticipated game that was coming out at Essen, and it was your number 1 game of last year.
Not only the best game that came out at Essen, the best game that came out last year. And yeah, there's people arguing over whether reviews are objective or subjective. I've changed my mind. They're completely objective, and I'm right. It's the best game that came out last year.
Fact. Just
Let's
say
not
fact
argue about these things anymore.
Yeah, if you say the word fact at the end of it, then it makes it...
Well, opinions are the same as facts now, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do the same with Vicky all the time. So,
yeah.
This chicken Kiev that I made was brilliant. Fact.
Yeah.
Matt, Underwater Cities.
I really enjoyed it as well.
I was going to say, it's your kind of game.
Again, last weekend it is. It was fun. It was really good. Yeah.
Best game of the year?
I'm very excited to play it some more. I mean, I've only played it once. I don't like to make statements like that after only playing a game once.
Yeah, so the main thing I've seen kind of...
Not yet.
The main thing I've seen against it is that it's long.
It's long.
And it is. It's 10 rounds and some production phases. Yeah. And each round you're playing...
3 actions.
3 actions. 3. And you're thinking about the card that you're getting and you're drawing new cards and stuff. It's definitely... A lot is happening in that game.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going to be long. 10 rounds, you only do 3 actions in a round. That sounds fine. Yeah. And then 3.5 hours later, you're finishing your first game. And you're like, what?
It's one that
we finished our first game in 2 hours.
Ah.
How many players?
Yeah, there's only 3 of us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 3.
But that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But
I'd say that it is definitely long, but not that it feels like it outstays its welcome at all. I think I said these exact words in the last podcast. Just listen to what I said then. But yeah, I think the build-up, everything that you're doing, the engine that you're building, it pays off beautifully at the end. It's the perfect length, even though definitely it's a bit on the long side for our taste. Other games that we haven't liked quite as... Well, I keep saying we. I really liked it. Other games that I've liked, not as much, I would say. It's too long, not for me. But it's so good that you don't even notice. Days, weeks pass while you're playing it. It could have been seconds.
I've played it 4 times. The last time I played it was a 3-player game and we played it in 90 minutes. Everybody had played before. So on the subject of the game is too long, exactly the same criticism came from Great Western Trail. People's first game of Great Western Trail was 3.5, 4 hours, which is too long for a game of that type. The first few times I played Underwater Cities, it was 3.5 hours. But now I'm pretty sure I could play a 4-player game of Underwater Cities with people who'd played before in 2 hours. And 2 hours is not a long game for me. It's just, and yeah, it's potentially... So I can say categorically it's one of my favourite games from last year. It might even be my favourite game of last year. I just think it's fantastic. I don't think I'm ever going to say no to a game of it. It's complex. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of rules, and we in fact got a couple of rules wrong for our first game. It's not that they weren't clear in the rule book. It's just, there were so many rules there. I forgot that you're only limited to 4 action cards, and if you play a 5th one, you have to discard one, but you get to use it on its way out. Little things like that I forgot for my first game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. I just thought it was brilliant. And bearing in mind it's a new company, Delicious Games, it's the first game they've done. It's really good.
Yeah. It could have come from like loads of established, like proper in quotation marks companies, and you would there's nothing saying that this is a brand new company. It's basically Vladimir and his wife.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there's a couple of production issues, but they're the same production issues that big companies have done before. Yeah. So it's
things like the player boards being thin. Well, that's kind of like it's in so many things now. I don't really agree with that. That I don't think the game would be better if it was on a punch board.
No, it's more
the thin cardboard.
The resource counters.
Yeah, but it's the same when any game comes out like that. When Quadropolis came out, people were moaning that it's just that thin paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No.
What are you doing with your things? It's potentially got like if you've got all of your stuff built up, there's a lot of stuff on your player mat, and if you knock it, it's not as much of an issue as it would be in Terraforming Mars.
No,
but I could see it being a bit of a thing. But be more careful, everybody. It's a really good game. Treat it with more respect.
Yeah. So yeah, Underwater Cities.
Hooligans.
I think it's fantastic. Tom thinks it's fantastic. Matt's played it once and also thought it was very good.
Yes.
So that is the whole list. Now, Matt, you wanted to talk about something that wasn't on any of our lists, which was Great Western Trail Rails.
But should have been.
But should have been.
Yes. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Great Western Trail already, and this just makes it even better without making it any harder.
Okay. There you go.
It's very, very,
I've heard nothing
good.
bad about it. I have heard so many good things about this expansion.
And adds a lot without really seeming like it's going to. Like it's just a board extension, one new, I can't remember what the type of action called, the bonus actions. Yeah. One new bonus action and an extra board and some huts, and it makes so much out of that. Well, there's a couple of new stations and things.
Right.
But it makes so much out of that. So much opens up just from those few additions. Yep. When we opened the box, we were disappointed there were no more cows, but it made up for that.
No, I really want to play it. I mean, yeah, Great Western Trail is my favourite game of 2016. It's in my top 10 games of all time. It's just, haven't got around to trying it yet. But as I say, everybody has told me I'm going to love the expansion. So, yeah, great job to the team who put that one together. Anything else quickly that we felt now should have been on our list that wasn't?
Well, I didn't put expansions on, I don't think, at all.
Right.
But one that I would have been excited about anyway, but we played it at the weekend. Kitchen Rush Piece of Cake is an expansion.
I saw your post about that.
Kitchen Rush is so good, and I'll go on about that forever. It's very, very top of the real-time co-op games. It's so, so beautiful. And Piece of Cake, it is so many stupid icing puns related to how good it is, but it's brilliant. It adds desserts. It adds a new requirement that you need to serve a certain number of ice creams by the end of the thing, and you can add ice creams to existing orders. It comes with a 3D cardboard freezer that the ice cream's in. So to get the ice cream, you need to physically go and open the top of the freezer, and there's a rule in there where if somebody leaves the top off the freezer and anybody notices, okay, then all the ice cream's melted in the freezer and you need to start again.
That's brilliant.
Oh, it's so good. And it's one where obviously if you didn't like Kitchen Rush, there's nothing for you here. No. Don't worry about that.
But if you
enjoyed Kitchen Rush, it's definitely like, I wouldn't say that we are particularly good at Kitchen Rush. We can just about squeeze through on normal. It was looking even more doubtful with all of this extra stuff on there. So it's more pressure. It's more to do in the same amount of time. But it's so good. It's just so beautiful.
So that was an expansion which was released at Essen?
Yes.
And didn't make your list because you didn't put expansions on your list?
No, I didn't put any expansions on.
Otherwise it would have done.
Yeah, it would have been excited anyway, because I can't remember where Kitchen Rush came in the year, or even the year that it came out. Last year, wasn't it? The year before last.
I think so.
Came out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
I want more.
Well, let's wrap things up here. So many of the games that we have covered, one or more of us have done reviews of them. So please go and check those videos or written reviews out for the games that we've covered if you want to know more about what we've talked about. But yeah, so that is our look back at the games that we thought we were going to be looking forward to. And overall, some of the ones we were most excited about turned out to be really good. And there's a couple of them that might have not been as good as we expected, which is the norm.
I don't think there's anything that's really, I was excited for it and it was awful.
Right.
And the ones I had bad experiences with, I wasn't.
Were on other people's lists.
I wasn't that pumped about anyway. And like some of them, I realised that a lot of these games that have come up I've been very moany about. It was one particular night at Essen where it seems like just the worst games.
Because I was talking to you afterwards and you were like, every game I played tonight was awful. And I was like, oh, right. Well.
What's happened? What's happened to board games? But it's just those things. But yeah, I think at the worst it's been, I was excited about that and it was okay.
Yeah. And there's a few games that we need to get together and play. So Matt, I need to lend you the Boldest. We need to play Magnastorm and things like that. And yeah, let's sort something out for later this year before these games disappear, as they probably will, like most of them do.
As the next wave appears.
So thank you both for coming on the show again. And just a quick reminder of where people can find you on the internet. Tom?
You can find me on YouTube. I'm Slickerdrips. You can go to slickerdrips.co.uk and it'll take you right there.
And Matt?
You can find me at Creaking Shelves, the website, and on YouTube as well.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you very much for your time. I'll be editing this podcast probably tomorrow now and then getting it out hopefully by the end of the week. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show and I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
So, thank you very much to everybody for listening. I hope you found this podcast useful and maybe interesting. And if you have any comments, then please leave them in the show notes below if you're following this on YouTube, or get in contact with me on social media or through the Board Game Geek Guild, guild number 2258. As always, thanks very much to Games Law for the sponsors of the show, the UK's largest specialist games retailer at gameslaw.com, to Jason Shaw at audionautics.com for the music used in this podcast, and to members of the Board Game Trading and Chat UK Facebook group that voted on some of the games that we talked about in this podcast. And also thanks to Peter from Tabletop Together for putting together a great tool for use at conventions. And as mentioned at the start, if you like this podcast and any of the other content that I create, then please consider supporting me over at Patreon. The website is patreon.com/gamingrules. Until next time, take care, and thanks very much for listening.